Oh, nice.
All right, let's see.
Oh, okay.
So here we have two of the newest smart speakers around, the Apple HomePod Generation 2 and the Sonos Era 100. Both of these smart speakers have a lot of the same capabilities, but they do differ in a few different ways. Let's take a look at both of them to see which one might be right for your home entertainment setup. So let's start with the design. Both of them are roughly the same height. Obviously the Sonos is a little bit taller, but if you look, they're both roughly the same diameter. Aesthetically, it's sort of up to you which one you prefer. Looking at the top of them, there's a little stylistic differences. Apple has this cool touch screen that if you touch it, it lights up, and there's a plus and minus here. You have to think about the directions and controls you want to do a little bit more. For example, like to forward and skip tracks, you have to double tap, whereas on the Era 100, there are specific buttons for play and pause and skipping forward and back in tracks. One other thing I do like about the Era 100 is if you look on the back of it here, there is a little switch to turn the microphone on and off. That's something the HomePod 2 doesn't have. So if you don't want Siri or Alexa listening to you, you know it's not going to listen to you on this one, whereas on the HomePod, you have to make sure that you tell Siri to stop listening. One thing I also really like about the Sonos Era 100 is that it has this USB-C port in the back. Now, you have to buy a separate adapter, but if you do, you can also plug this directly into Ethernet, or if you have a turntable, you can plug a turntable directly into this thing, so you don't need a separate amp or anything like that if you want to play your records straight through this. On the other hand, the HomePod works much better with your home entertainment system. If you have an Apple TV 4K, you can use a HomePod as the speaker output for your TV, which is pretty nice. You can't do anything like that with the Sonos Era 100. Unfortunately, you have to upgrade to one of Sonos' sound bars if you want to get that sort of output from your TV. Speaking of your home entertainment system, the HomePod does have one other feature that the Sonos Era 100 lacks, the ability to play spatial audio. You can play Dolby Atmos tracks through the HomePod, but you can't through the Sonos Era 100. If you want to do that with a Sonos product, you're going to have to upgrade to the Sonos Era 300. If we take a look inside these speakers, you'll notice a few key differences. Both have one large woofer, but in the HomePod, it's sort of in the middle and directed upwards. In the Sonos 100, it's right about here and it's facing forward. The HomePod has an array of 4 different tweeters all around the bottom, sort of facing upwards, whereas in the Era 100, there are 2 tweeters right here, sort of facing this way. What that means is that the HomePod is better for listening wherever you happen to be in the room. It provides 360 degrees sound. With the Era 100, it's best if you stand sort of in front of it to get the best audio. When it comes to playing music through these smart speakers, you get a lot more choices with Sonos than you do with the HomePod. With the HomePod, you can play music through Apple Music, and then you can also use AirPlay and things like that. But with the Sonos, it connects directly to hundreds of different music sources, from Spotify to TuneIn Radio to I think it does MLB.com. If there's a music source out there, chances are that you can stream it directly through the Sonos. I would say the Sonos gives you a bit more flexibility when it comes to being able to stream things natively through it, rather than having to go through AirPlay or Bluetooth or something like that. And speaking of Bluetooth, it's finally come to a Sonos product. Yes, after years of not wanting to include it, the Sonos Era 100 actually has a Bluetooth connection. Now that's something that Apple has had with AirPlay 2 on its HomePod, so there's a bit more parity there. And then speaking of wireless connections, the Sonos Era 100 actually has Wi-Fi 6, whereas the HomePod has older Wi-Fi 5. What that means for you, maybe not too much right now, but as you upgrade your home network to, say, a Wi-Fi 6 router, you'll be able to get better performance out of your Sonos speaker, because you'll be able to get greater bandwidth and, possibly greater fidelity depending on the throughput you have. Of course, these are smart speakers, so they're more than just about playing music. Both of them have smart assistants built into them, so you can do things like ask the weather, change the lights, but they both differ in a few key ways. For starters, let's talk about voice assistants. The Apple HomePod, as you might expect, only works with Siri. The Sonos Era 100 works with Amazon's Alexa, as well as Sonos' own voice assistant, which is far more limited. Now, it's kind of interesting, the earlier version of this, the Sonos One, used to work with, or still does work with, Alexa and Google Assistant. But because of ongoing litigation between Sonos and Google, the newer model only works with Alexa. The HomePod has a few other smart home features built in. It supports Matter, which is a new smart home standard that'll allow you to connect other devices directly to it without having to connect it to Wi-Fi first. And the HomePod also has a temperature and humidity sensor built into it, so you can ask Siri, hey, what's the temperature in the room? The Sonos Era 100 doesn't have any similar features built in, but because it can work with Amazon's Alexa ecosystem, you can connect far more smart home devices than you can the HomePod. Of course, the big question is which speaker sounds better. To find out, we're going to cover them with a little cloth, and then we're going to bring in a few people to listen to both and tell us which they prefer.
Hi, I'm Tony Polanco, and I am a consumer, according to Brandon.
So I'm Elisa James. I work for Tech Radar as a US computing staff writer.
I'm Marcus, and I'm a producer director at Tom's Guide.
Which one did you prefer?
The second one. Here's the thing. I think both of them are really, they're really good. But the second one, it seemed like there's a better balance between everything.
So which one did you like better?
I'm gonna go with this one.
Yeah, and how come?
I feel like the sound quality was a little cleaner and like crisp. This one wasn't bad, but I'm not sure how to describe it, but it was kind of like a little like crackly maybe in the background.
My immediate reaction is that the second one, this one, felt bassier. It felt like a little richer. Everything was a little higher on the first one.
Did you prefer one or the other?
I think I probably, preferred number 2 for that reason.
Oh, nice. Again, I thought this one was going to be hard to beat. It just sounded really good, punchy, but this one has more bass to it, which I like. I still think that the mids were better on this one, but you know, this one not so much, but like the bass was just so booming and I want to hear the song like that, so I prefer this one too.
Still gonna say this one, but interestingly, I was kind of tempted to say this one at first, but then with this, it's just I get to hear things like the varying intensity of like the drum pounds, you know, just a lot of stuff that like I don't hear in this, you know, but I was able to pick out through this because it's just so clear.
I feel kind of similar. They sounded more alike that time, I think. The only main difference I noticed is after the 2 goes through, the first speaker seemed to really distort, and I don't know if it was just a little bit louder or but it seemed like it was struggling.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay, ready?
Yay.
And
Oh, wow. Apple, you got me. Yeah. They should be happy about that.
here we go.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, you picked the Apple HomePod.
Oh, wow.
Yep, see what you picked?
Yeah, go on. Oh, okay. I didn't know what the Sonos looked like, so I was assuming it was the other way around. That's quite interesting.
So there you have it, in a taste test, if you will, of the Apple HomePod 2 and the Sonos Era 100. We have a split decision. 2 of our testers preferred the HomePod. 1 of them preferred the Sonos. I'm gonna have to listen to it a little bit more before I come to a final decision on which one I prefer better. There are certainly advantages to both speakers. The HomePod 2 costs $299, while the Era 100 costs $249. This one is great if you're in the Apple ecosystem. This one might be the better option if you have a lot of streaming music sources or you want to hook it up to, say, your turntable. To check out our full review of the Sonos Era 100, the Apple HomePod 2, be sure to check us out at tomsguide.com. This is Mike Prospero.
Next track.